Very interesting. We're going to be discussing a book that I cannot take the full name for. I'm sorry about that. Most of you are here because the topic of the book is very interesting, right? But like one of you said, it's an irony of sorts that the book talks about the fact that we should not really worry so much in life, but in reality, it actually tells you to worry about it. Okay. The book is written by Mark Manson. He is a best-selling author. He's got a lot of insights about self-help. He's himself studied a lot about self-help, and this book turned out to be a really great one because a lot of ideas that he's mentioned in this book relate to his own personal life and to some usual general life people. Usually you would expect a book, if it is on self-help, to give you examples of Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or any of the big personalities in the world. But he doesn't start that way. He basically gives you examples of his own life, about his own teachers, about his own way. Basically, the book has 9 chapters, okay, and it redefines the way of how the world has set certain conventions. So usually, when we start out in the world, there is a set pattern that the world has set for us, right? We take birth. Somebody gives us our name, somebody tells us what to do. If we are a boy, they tell us, okay, you should wear blue, you should not cry. If you're a girl, you should wear pink, you should cry all the time. Okay? Sorry, no offense, but this is how usually the world perceives it to be. Really wrong. It's not necessary that you have to wear pink and blue to determine who you are. It's not necessary that you only have to be told that this is what you're supposed to do. What are we said? Usually, you're a school teacher, you just said interesting things about going to school. Why do we need to go to school? What's the whole idea behind going to the school? Why can't I just be and study the nature, the world, the fashion which is already around? Why can't I just travel? Why can't I just live by experiences? Okay, back in the caveman days, nobody went to school. Nobody went and joined an organization and then wanted to go and try out a degree and get marks and get numbers and grades and go to this college or that college. That wasn't the case. But people turned out to be good. People still turned out to be better. Right? So what Mark is trying to do in this book is he's trying to challenge the conventional way of how the world thinks for us. And why did the world think the way it thinks for us? You go to school, you first, you're in your primary section. You're told, okay, study. Why do we need to study? Not to get into a college. Great. You go to college. Why do you need to study? You need to get a job. Okay, now you found a job. Great. Study, or work. Why? You need to get married, have a family. Okay, fine. Now you got married, you had a family. Now work hard, work more hard. Why? Because you need to make them grow. Fine. Then they need to go to school. Then they have their own expenses. Then they have their lives. Now, by the time that whole circle of life comes to a certain stage, you realize your life is finished. So when have you lived your life? Nobody really knows, right? It's the story of a majority of the people around the world, right? Most of the population around the world. We all live in that fashion. Like you said, everybody is saying, okay, look at that fellow. Look at this fellow's son, or look at that fellow's daughter. He's doing so well, she's doing so well. Oh, look at him, he's got a Mercedes. Look at him, he's got something else. Okay, what have you got? There's always pressure. There's always a comparison. All right? Now, what does that leave our mental health in? Our state of our mind. Where does that leave our mental health? And that's what this book is all about. This book is very much, I really love this book. Why? Because it's also very close to the topic that I have studied in my life, which is logotherapy. Because it tells you to first identify what's important for you. Mark is asking this question, what is the pain that we are willing to go through in our life, or what we are willing to accept in our life? Because only if we go through a certain pain in our life, are we going to reach a destination that will provide us happiness. What are we all doing in life? What are we all aiming for? What are we all achieving for or going for in life? We all want, at the end of the day, happiness. Now, what is happiness? Is defined differently by different people. Right? So one of the chapters in the book talks about the whole idea of happiness. So what is happiness? Happiness is nothing but a problem.
But
But a problem. So Mark talks about this concept in the book where he says happiness is nothing but a problem. Take an example of a happiness. Let's say you've got first grade in your class. Okay? You achieved happiness because you stood first. What did you do by standing first? You solved a problem. There were so many things for you to learn. You went through the pain. You accepted the pain of learning, of going for an exam, which was a problem for you. You solved it and you attained happiness. So happiness is nothing but a problem that we are all trying to address. We're all trying to address this thing called happiness, which is a problem in life. If you look at it as a problem to solve, then you will be able to find happiness. Okay? Our issue as human beings is we are constantly going after happiness. Why? Linked to another chapter in the book where he says because we all feel entitled. We all feel we are entitled to something. We all feel or live in this world in our head of entitlement. We feel that whatever we do, we are entitled to happiness. But who's made you entitled to happiness? Have we ever questioned that belief? Because what we want is, we want happiness in our lives. Like you said, I don't want any pain in my life. You always want happiness. But you will attain happiness only when you do something in life. You want to run a marathon, you want to come first, but you don't want to train for it. How? How is it possible? How will you attain happiness? You've not even trained for the marathon. How can you come first in the marathon? It's not possible. Because until you don't go through the process, so you have to try and understand the problem. Happiness is nothing but a problem in life. If you solve that problem, you will be able to find something. So for each one of us, the question to ask, which I asked you before as well, what is the pain you are willing to take? In short, what I'm asking you, what's the happiness you are seeking? So if you tell me that I want to run the marathon and I want to come first, are you willing to accept the pain of the training? Are you willing to accept the pain of the hard work that goes behind the marathon? Are you willing to accept the hard work and the training time, the sacrifices you have to make when it comes to your food, when it comes to your fitness, when it comes to your health, and the time that you're going to be spending away from your family? Everything at the end of the day is pain. And after that, when you run the marathon and you come first or second or whatever is your objective, or your objective could be as simple as finishing the marathon, the happiness you attain is a byproduct of the pain you've gone through. It makes you forget all the pain that you are going through in life. So the question to ask to each one of us, and each one of us should have that answer, what is the pain we are willing to go through? And that is what Mark talks about. It's not about saying forget about life, that you stop living life. I mean, unlike the title which says don't care about anything in life, we have to care about things in life, but we have to care about the right things in life. What is that right thing that we want to care about? So that one thing that we all want to care about, it could be our families, it could be our careers, it could be a passion that we have, it could be anything else that we can think of. But what is that one thing that we really care about, for which we are willing to give everything that we have in life, for which we are actually willing to sacrifice it to any extent in our life? And that is what we need to find. That's the discovery that we need to do, and that is what this book helps us to do. So what does he talk about in terms of sin? There are 9 chapters. I will quickly browse through them because then I want to keep this discussion open. So number 1, don't try too hard. That's the first step. We keep trying all the time. We get tired at the end of the day. Certain things are not meant to be tried. If it's not happening, leave it. Move on. It's not the end of the world. So simple analogy that he uses, and which I kind of also tell in my talks in the past as well, I've used this. Have we all caught butterflies in our life? Sorry? Butterflies? Have we all caught butterflies in our hands? Have we touched butterflies? Okay, no? Okay. So if you are going to a particular place where it's just full of butterflies, try catching them. Try running after them. You will never be able to catch them because they will run faster than you. Right? You sit on one place, sit like this at ease, happy, calm, quiet. The butterfly will automatically come and sit on your hand, on your shoulders, sometimes on your face. It will come and play with you. He relates the same example to life. Whatever we are going after, it evades us. It runs away from us because we are going after the end result first. What we need to worry about is what is the process of how we are going to go to that end result. Okay? So don't try to catch the end result first. So don't try to come first in the marathon on day one. That could be your goal, but that's not something you will be able to achieve. Very rare if you are able to achieve, but you won't be able to achieve in your first marathon. Maybe your marathon 5, 10, 20 that you were running, you may be able to come first. Right? For that you need to go through that pain. So don't try too hard in life, because we sometimes dedicate our entire lives to keep trying something. We get in that whole, what do you call that whole ego thing drives us and says, you know what, I have to do it. Why is this thing not happening to me? Maybe it's not meant to be. It's all right. Just move on. You've tried something. You've given your best. Move on. Yes, give your best. But don't waste your life. Don't end your life by just keep on trying things. Because there is a very interesting law that he writes, which is called the backwards law. He says, pursuit of positive experience in itself is itself a negative experience. So pursuit of positive experience is itself a negative experience. Because you're going after something positive in your life, but by doing so, you're pressurizing yourself, you're pressurizing your mind, you're pressurizing your body, you're pressurizing a lot of things around you, you're causing a lot of stress in your life, which itself is a negative process, right? The acceptance of a negative experience in itself is a positive experience. So this is what he calls as the backwards law. That if you accept a negative experience in your life, you're willing to make positive changes around it. So only when you accept that there is a problem, you'll find a solution, right? If you say, no, nothing is wrong, if you live in the world of denial, you won't be able to kind of move forward in life. So that's the first chapter that he talks about, which is don't try too hard. Second, I already spoke about this, that happiness is a problem. It is a big problem. I explained to you the concept of what happens in our lives. You go to school, why? You need to go to a college. You go to college, why? You need to find a job. You need to find a job, why? You want to get married and settle down. Once you've got married, okay, now you have children. Once you have children, then the whole cycle starts again. This is something called as the hedonic treadmill. We as human beings are constantly on that treadmill. It's a hedonic treadmill. It's a concept that is very popular in psychology. Hedonic treadmill means a treadmill that is never going to stop. It keeps on going and going and going and going and going. You reach one stage, then you'll want to start another one. You reach the other stage, you want to start another one. So where will you stop and enjoy your happiness? It's not going to happen. So happiness is a problem. Hedonic treadmill is a reality of life. We need to step out of it. And that is what we should be aiming for. We should not be doing exactly what the world is doing. It's not necessary. Because we need to define our own happiness. We need to define our own life. We need to understand what it is. Comparisons, like you said, what others are thinking. That's something that's how the world is defined. That's how it's part of the hedonic treadmill. What is the world thinking about us? Right? Are we really bothered about it? If we want to, yeah, we can sit and cry over it. But our life is our life. Nobody else knows our problems. We know our problems. And that's where we need to focus on. Negative emotions are also opportunities. Right? And of course, happiness comes from solving problems. If we found happiness, it's a problem we've solved. It's a happy problem. So when I asked you a question, what's the pain you want to go through? In short, it could also be rephrased as what's the problem you want to solve? So for most people, they'll say, oh, money is a problem I want to solve. Fine. Nothing wrong in that. You need money to survive in this world. You need money to live a good life. But the problem happens is when you continue your focus on just solving that money problem. When you reach a certain stage of life and you say, I will have enough money, now I will stop. You don't stop because the hedonic treadmill doesn't let you stop. It moves to the next goal. So I was coaching a client recently and the person says, if I have this much in my bank, I will stop. I said, I can guarantee you on a stamp paper, it's not going to happen. Because you reach that stage, your goalpost would have shifted. Because by that time, probably you would have got married or you would have children. Your needs, your wants, your desires will continue to grow. So don't tell yourself ever that if I have this much money, I will stop. It's not going to happen. Because your goal needs to continue with this something. The third chapter talks about the fact that you have to accept the fact. You are not special. We all think we are special. The whole world revolves around us. The very simple exercise I make my clients do when I do life coaching with them. I ask them to transfer themselves to a zone where you think for a moment that you have died. Think about it, that you've died. What happens after you die? And many of them end up crying in this exercise because they realize that the world doesn't stop for them. We all think that the world revolves around that. If I'm not part of this world, oh my God, this world will collapse. Nothing will happen. Your boss will replace you in no time. Your company will not even bother about it. I've had people in my own friend circle I have seen, who've got, and people who work for the armed forces. Okay, somebody got shot at the border, fighting a war, and the armed forces people come to their home on day 5 and ask the wife and the kids to vacate the home on day 5. This is how the world is. They are not worried about your sacrifice. They are not worried about what you've done for them. They will throw you out because they want you to. They will replace you with somebody else. This is what the world is all about. We are only in a very transitory point in this world. This world is very transitory for us. So don't get attached to it. You're nothing, no special person. We are all the same. Nobody is special. But the only thing that is significant to us, and this is not part of the book, this is a line that I have written as part of my forthcoming book that I'm writing. When somebody tells me to define me as a person, I always say that I am a significant person to my own self, but I'm insignificant to the world. And that is what I have experienced out of my life also, that I'm insignificant to the world. If I'm not there tomorrow, nothing is going to change. Some people will have pain, some people will suffer, some people will miss me, some people will remember me for the good work I did, hopefully, but the world is not going to stop. The world is not going to stop. But who am I significant for? My own self. So I need to take care of myself. The whole world will take care of itself. So that's chapter number 3 that he talks about. Then comes chapter 4, where he says value of suffering. Okay, he talks about the fact that life is all about suffering. He refers to the philosophy of Gautam Buddha, who was the founder of Buddhism, and he had said that life is nothing but suffering. Life is nothing but suffering. You are here. You're not here on your own free will. Did you take birth on your own free will? No. Okay. We all, many a times, I have a client who is in Singapore, and the client has gone through a lot of depression in her life. Her clear problem is that she has an existential crisis in her life. She believes that she does not belong to this planet, and her parents did a mistake by getting her here. So she has been blaming her parents ever since she's kind of understood the concept of life. So I started coaching her a few months ago, around 5-6 months ago. And every time I talk to her, she has solid reasons to say, I am not here on my free will, so why should I be staying on this planet? Why should I be staying on this planet? Why should I be doing what the world expects me to do? How do you solve a person's problem like this? You talk about suffering, life is suffering. He also says life is suffering. But at the same time, he also says there is an opportunity in suffering as well. Because if there is suffering, there will not be suffering forever. You will always find light at the end of the darkness. Right? If you keep that attitude, if you keep that positivity in mind, you will be able to sail through. If you are in the ocean, okay, you've been thrown in the ocean, you don't know how to swim, are you not going to try? Or are you just simply going to give up? You will try to swim, you will try to find, peace, comfort somewhere. So that's chapter 4, where he talks about the value of suffering. Chapter 5, he talks about you are always choosing. As human beings, we are always choosing. We had a choice of being here or sitting at home and probably, lazing around on our couch and watching Netflix. But we chose to be here. Maybe a reason, maybe a purpose. We all want to enlighten ourselves. We all want to probably learn from each other. But we decided to step out of our comfort zones and do something. Change, bring about a change. We are always choosing something. We're all here. A lot of us are expats here. We're all living here. Many of us don't live with our families. We live away from our families, but it's our own choice. So should we be blaming someone else for it? So I meet a lot of people here who are expats who say, oh, life is miserable, I don't know, what am I doing here? But you chose here to come here, right? You chose to sign that contract. You chose to come here. Your objectives are different. Why did you come here? Different story. But now that you are here, enjoy it. It's the same technique I used with this client in Singapore, where I told her that fine, your parents got you here, is what you feel. Though I have convinced her that her parents also did not bring her here. Okay? There are lots of couples who keep trying to have children, they don't get children. Okay? There is a larger power, there is a larger universe that kind of decides whether you will have children, you will not have children, whether you will come in this world or you will not come in this world. Our parents are just a medium to bring us into this planet. But if we are here now, isn't it our responsibility to actually do something? Because by simply blaming someone that because of you I'm here, you're not solving a problem. So she's now coming to terms with the fact that somebody has told her very clearly, objectively, explaining to her that now that you're here, why don't you make merry about it? Why don't you at least try to be happy about it? Right? Rather than simply saying, I'm not supposed to be here. And again, unfortunately, just for the record, she's actually tried to commit suicide 3 times. And the very first session I did with her, I told her on her face. I said, you've tried it 3 times. Do you know what that means? That you're not supposed to die, you're supposed to live. So when somebody tells you a different point of view, that's when you suddenly start understanding what's happening as well, right? So responsibility, we're always choosing. It's our own choices. We are made of our own choices. Even in logotherapy, Viktor Frankl, who's the founder of logotherapy, said this. We are made of our own choices. The only choice, only true freedom that we have in this world is to choose the path we want to walk. There is no other freedom. Everybody else decides everything else for us. The only freedom is whether we decide to walk that path or not. That's the only thing. Chapter 6 talks about you are wrong about everything. What we were discussing earlier before we started the session. What was, the way of life 20, 30 years ago? The example of going to the library and finding something, right? We felt it is true. Now, for today's kids, it's ChatGPT, right? And they're like, why do I even need to go to a library? Why should I even be worried about doing research, right? So, for them, this is the truth. 30 years down the line, 20 years down the line, this may also not be the truth. What was happiness for us as a child is no longer happiness for us. What was happiness for us as a child? Having a candy, going to watch a movie, going to the beach and building a sandcastle. Okay, there's no beach in Riyadh, so you can't really do that. But when you go to Jeddah, you can find a beach and build a sandcastle. The joy that gives you, that would have given us at that point of time. Today we find it very silly. When my kids do the same thing, I find it very silly. What are you guys doing? But for them, that is the truth. That is the happiness. That's the reality. It was our reality at that point of time. It's no longer our reality. Our reality is very different. And this reality is also not going to remain. So Mark tells about that, what is true today is foolish tomorrow. So it's foolish behavior tomorrow. We may feel, what was I doing at that point of time? But at that point of time, it sounded correct. So we were doing it, right? So there's nothing, you're going to be wrong about everything in life. So don't try to make yourself right. Again, a very similar concept to logotherapy, where we say there's no concept of right or wrong. It's all about perception. And it's all about the time in which you are. The next chapter, he talks about failure is the way forward. A lot of us do not take failure very easily. We sulk, we get into depression, addictions, all kinds of mental health problems happen because we cannot accept failure. If we are able to accept failure, because in failure there is an opportunity, right? If we have a failure, we can sense an opportunity and move forward. Because if there is a failure, that means we failed to solve a problem. The time is to do something about that problem. So doing something, taking that first step to move out away from that failure is the way of life. So that's again something that we need to kind of keep in mind. The next is importance of saying no. Very, very important to say no in life. No to things we don't really bother, right? And we are very clear. No to things which are beyond our value circle. No to things which are beyond our principles. No to things which we know are going to lead to exploitation. So this morning I was having a session with a client of mine, and she told me that how her new boss, who's half her age, comes in and suddenly tells her that, commands her that you have to do this from tomorrow. Something as a job profile she used to do 20 years ago. But now this boy wants her to do this again, even though she's moved to a supervisory role. But just because he's the boss, he's commanded something, and now she's in this terrible state because she's saying that I have to do it. But the good part is, she actually went and told him, I'm not going to do this because this is beyond what I was hired for. This is beyond the scope of my work that is defined. Right? And that led to a confrontation with the immediate boss. And I asked her, I said, why did you say no? You could have done that thing. She said, because it would be the start of an exploitation cycle. Because for that particular job that he was asking me to do, there's a vacant position which he doesn't want to fill. So he wants her to double up in that job and do that job plus the supervisory job. So he's not saying that you move from the supervisory role and come here. He's saying you do that and you do this. And she knows if she accepts it, then he's going to tick mark and say, you know what, I found a person, I don't need to hire anyone. Now, we may have a different perception. Some people might say this is not good because if you're a loyal person to the organization, you should contribute. She has been managing that profile, that portfolio for the last so many months, and always going back to the management and saying, fulfill the position because my supervisory role is suffering. Okay? And categorically now, this week, she went and told the boss, I am not doing this. And now she's very happy because suddenly the boss realized that he would end up losing a good resource because she went and told him that I'm not doing this, and if you don't accept it, fine, I'll resign, I'll move on. So suddenly now, he's got his reality check that I might end up losing a good resource. It only happened because she learned to say no. Had she not said that, it would have probably, caused a lot of misery to her, not to the boss. It would have caused a misery to the organization also, because in both the profiles, she was not able to put her 100%. So importance of saying no is very critical. Finally, the last part of the book talks about the fact that then we all die. I gave you an example of how I explained this to my client, right? That ultimately we are all going to die. It's the truth of life. We have to accept it, right? We can't be going on and on and on and on forever. So think about the fact that when you die, what happens? So he's actually given a very interesting analogy in the book where he says that he has a fascination about cliffs. When you go to mountains, there are these cliffs by the mountainside, right? And he says he has a fascination for going and walking, next to the cliffs. And many times his friends have actually felt that he is stupid in doing that because he's risking his own life. But he says in the book that he's had a realization about this in life when he's walking by the cliffs, that he could slip and fall right then and life could end. The moment you have that realization that life could end today, you know what human beings do? We start living. You know, one of the most important questions we try to answer in logotherapy. Do you know why human beings are always in a rush? We are the only species on planet Earth that knows we are going to die. Dogs, they don't know. Cats, they don't know. Animals, they don't know. That's why they live freely. They live without fear. We are the only species on this planet who know we are going to die. That's why we live with fear. The fear of death. And because we know we are going to die, we want to achieve a lot of things in our lives. We want to keep doing things. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. Even on the last day of your life, we will be like, oh, I have not finished this. I wish I had a little more time. To do what? What did you achieve? On the last day of our lives, we all will realize nothing is worth it. It was all us at the end of the day. That kind of matter. So at the end of it, he talks about this very clearly, that ultimately we are going to die. And death can happen today as well. So start living. Start living for your own self. Start living for what you really believe in. So care for what you believe in. The book doesn't say to hell with the world. The book says that care for what you believe in. What is it that you are willing to suffer for? What is it that you are willing to suffer the pain for? What is the objective you want to achieve in life? And how do you want to achieve that? That is the journey of life. The journey of life is not saying do what the world wants you to do. What he's saying is forget the world. Create your own world. Try to understand what you really want to do with life. So that in simple terms is the summary of the book.